Ed's had his little warm up. We'll start the recording in 3, 2.
Welcome to the dugout. Let me see them thumbs up here. Yes, sir. We're going to have a good one for you today. We got Curtis W. Hollis Sr. We'll just call him Kurt because that's what the guys on the ball field call him. I got a big long list here what Kurt's done, and in the interest of time, we're going to get into it in the questioning, but I'll try to shorten this thing up and get to the meat with Kurt. And he's got a lot of meat on them bones. He's
a big boy.
He's a big boy, almost as big as that guy Martin. They're relatives, by the way.
Are they?
Oh, I get off the track. Let me get back on the track here. Okay, as I said, welcome to the episode. What a pleasure it is to introduce a true legend in the world of softball and a dedicated community member and leader. Kurt W. Hollis Sr., born November 27, 1956, Jacksonville, Florida. Kurt is like 67 years old, lived in Jacksonville all his life, went to North Shore Elementary and was an influential figure in the softball community, and it was very inspiring to the softball players in that era. And one of the big things we got Kurt on our channel, this is kind of impromptu podcast we had, but Kurt has a lot of information from the Jacksonville area from the old days of softball, and that's what this channel is dedicated to, is at least giving the baseline for softball in the old days, so to speak, so that history's not lost. Some great players. Jacksonville was a hot spot of softball. So let me get back to Kurt's introduction. He worked for a long time with Winn Dixie in the management, and then he joined his illustrious brother, Austin Hollis, commonly known as Audie, and those two, when they could break up their continuous argument they have as brothers, they got a lot of work done. They got a very successful operation in Jacksonville, appraisal operation. Kurt's married to Debbie Hollis. That's been since 1979.
78.
78. Okay. Oh, yeah. So we got it wrong here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I won't tell anybody, but I just put it on air. So 78. That was my mistake, not Kurt's.
I already paid the price.
Yeah. Oh, you already paid the price. Okay. So he's a proud father of 4 and a grandfather of 9. Grandchildren, obviously. His love for the sport in the early years started he played football, obviously a big old boy, probably a good football player, but we won't get into that. Kurt found his true passion though when he got in the world of softball. He played with a lot of top-notch teams that we're going to get into, and his career has gone to the point that he actually was inducted into the Florida Half-Century Hall of Fame in 2017. Now, the other part of Kurt's life is interesting in different ways because he has faced a lot of challenges like we all have. As you grow older, Father Time hits you with a lot of challenges. We'll talk about those. He had life-threatening boating accident when he was 11. So we'll learn a little more about that. He had a heart attack when he was in 2017. And he like I said, he's been through a lot. He has not only played, but has also given back to this sport by running the classic spring training. And I think, and I'll get into it with Kurt, but he may be one of the innovators in that spring training deal. But we'll get into that and flush that out. My memory may be incorrect. It may be spot on. Who knows? Currently, Kurt is on the road to recovery from Achilles tendon injury. We'll get into that a little. But Kurt is a very popular guy in the senior softball world. home run king. Some of them consider. All he kept on saying he was gonna destroy the senior softball war. But he's done some destruction, but hasn't destroyed. Thank God. So we're gonna talk to Kurt. I'm gonna turn it over to my co-host Dano from Canada and let Dan dive into Kurt Hollis. Welcome, Kurt.
Kurt the man. Thank you for joining us. It's good to see you again, my man. And
It's good to be here.
I look forward to off air. Before we started, we were doing some story sharing. I look forward to getting into some of those details. But first, let's talk about Kurt. What take us back to your childhood in Jacksonville. What are some of your earliest memories growing up there?
Wow, my earliest memory, I didn't even realize it was my earliest memory till I was probably 20. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, I got this vision in my head here of sand, wind, white sand, a big wall, the adults screaming, and somebody grabbing me and jumping on top of me against the wall. And she goes, Kurt, there's no way that you can remember that. And I'm saying, well, I don't know what I'm telling you. I'm just telling you that's all I remember. And she said, well, there was a tornado at Ocean Pond. And it swept right through where we were, took all the furniture away and swept up people. And the adults were screaming, and a man grabbed me out of the air and pinned me on the ground and covered me up with his body as this thing went through. And so she told me that I had just started walking, so I was like 1.5. And that's just kind of unheard of, but I think it was just so traumatic that I didn't know what I'm remembering. I just remember that event.
Wow.
And so that's my earliest memory. And, and then from there it jumps, it's probably 4.5 or 5, years old. But so that was also my first tornado. I had another one later. So
Kurt didn't live a boring life. He had lots of cool stories to reflect on.
Yeah.
Not all of them enjoyable, maybe. You attended several schools in Jacksonville. How did your education shape you during those formative years?
I think when I was real young, elementary school, I wanted to be a schoolboy patrolman. I mean, that was my goal. Those guys get to wear the badge, and they give them a badge, And
You were power hungry back then, were you?
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be a schoolboy patrolman, and
What do they call it? Safety patrol?
safety patrol or whatever, when you get to hold the flag and let the kids across the street, and I didn't have the grades. I was the only person in my family that not got to be a schoolboy patrolman.
Because you didn't have the grades?
Well, but it was you had to have good grades, and I had decent grades, but I didn't have them good enough. But the big factor was in 6th grade, they bussed us off to the 6th grade center, so that's when they started the busing, and so that would have been the year that I probably would have made it, and they bussed us so.
They busted what, for segregation or integration?
It was a segregation.
Yeah.
Sure was.
Wow.
And
See how sharp I am? I'm on top of that stuff.
Yeah, Rose.
so I went to Kirby Smith when they had the race riots in Jacksonville.
Race riots.
And there was a riot at Kirby Smith, and so we just got out of there. But my parents could tell that between me and my brothers that if they don't get us out into the country, that we're going to end up bad. And so they sacrificed for us and moved us to Mandarin, which was like 66, 67.
Out of the city?
Out of the city, and that was the country. I mean,
What are your memories of that? Were you happy or not?
Yeah, I think I was. Once I got out there and got in that situation, I think I was. Because we were on the wrong path, and my mom recognized it and did something about it. And so she decided that she would. She actually, her dad bought a little small piece of land, 2 1/4 acres, and she saw how much the realtor did to facilitate that sale and what they got paid, and she's like, I need to be a realtor.
No.
So she went, and she was a realtor and a real estate broker, and and ultimately, Audie followed kind of in that direction. He's a real estate broker, but he's also an appraiser.
Wow.
And which is a step above and beyond, and so I'm really thankful for what they did, because they changed our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now to clarify, just let me step in here and clarify for me. You didn't move because of the integration. You moved because you guys were a bunch of troublemakers. Right?
Yeah. So it wasn't uncommon when we were unsupervised, which was all day. Get out of the house.
But there's too much around to get in trouble.
There was a vacant lot next door, and there was some old shingles, and so we would fire those shingles, and you could throw them and they'd boomerang back, so it looks like they were being thrown from the other side of the road, and they'd hit the cars on this side of the road.
I heard stories telling that Audie would tell you to do shit and you would do it, and you
Yeah, I love Audie. Okay.
But he bullshits. He bullshits, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got. There's
He's
some.
worse than me.
Admitted. I don't know what the word is, but embellish.
Bullshitting.
Embellish, maybe, I don't know, but no. Man, I'm thankful for him, because when I had enough of Winn Dixie, Audie was offering me a job, and he just couldn't. He was getting there,
Mm-hmm.
but it took a year or so.
Yeah,
And
we're
then-
going to get to that part in a second.
Okay.
Don't lose that thought.
Yeah.
When the next point, well, I have another question that's not on the sheet. Like, when, as a young man, were you interested in sports, and what did you play? What was your favorite, and did that move? How did that change it?
When I was in elementary school, I played gray Y football. Ed probably familiar with gray Y football. I was a fullback, and we won the city championship. We played the undefeated team to win, and we beat them 27-0. That's about all I can really remember.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a great player by any means, and went on to middle school, and I'm like, well, I want to play football, and I played defensive end. Same thing there. No, there was no coaching. You just get out there, they run a sweep, and you get killed. And you take
defensive end.
Yeah. Take as many of them as you can out to help your guys behind you. And that's the only thing I knew, And so I got a little bad taste in my mouth from it's my first look at politics in sports. Was when I was in junior high school, and I could kick a football. In grade Y, I kicked a 36-yard field goal. Okay, so I'm like, I don't know how old I was, but I'm young. And but when I didn't have anybody to play with, I kicked the football down there, and I go get it, and I kick it back, and I did that thousands of times. And so I get into middle school, and they got me playing defensive end. I'm okay, I'll play that, but I wanted to kick. Well, and so I waited every day, and we never practiced. We got a game day after tomorrow. We without practice. The day before we had the game, the coach says, if you want to be a kicker or a punter, follow me. Okay? Well, the quarterback in the team went, and several other guys. And he let us kick, and I was killing the ball. I was killing it and kicking straight. He couldn't kick a lick. And after practice, I got to pick up the cones or whatnot, and I'm walking by, and Coach Sharp is talking to the quarterback, and I hear the quarterback say, well, if I can't kick, I'm not going to play quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, listen to this. And I didn't have any say in the matter, so I just going into the locker room, change and go home. Well, the next day's the game. Opening kickoff, they kick off to us. We run it back for a touchdown. He sends the quarterback in to kick the field goal, the extra point.
Yeah.
And so he missed it, and there was a penalty, and he got to try it again, and he missed it, and there was another penalty, and he got to try it again and he missed it. And I didn't get one kick in the whole game. And so that was my first.
It sounds like you got a problem with bad coaching.
Yeah, well.
That's what that's called, bad
There's
coaching.
politics and everything too.
But the guy was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I can't really blame Coach Sharp, but you know,
just leverage to get his way.
But obviously, if he misses 3 extra point kicks
Yeah.
in a row, he's not a good kicker.
No.
yeah, well, and you got to understand, this is middle school, and most of them
Yeah.
aren't. But I could.
Yeah.
Now, when we later in life, I didn't play in high school because I decided, crap with all that, I'm gonna work.
Right.
But me and my younger brother, Clay, decided to try out for a semi-pro team, and we both made it. And I played offensive tackle, and I was a kicker. And they brought a guy in from the Miami Dolphins that, what's the little guy's name that kicked for the Dolphins all those years?
Brunitsky?
I'm sorry?
Brunitsky?
No.
No, it was before.
Eustremian? Or Eustremian?
Upremian. So he beat this guy out, and this guy shows up at our place, and that's the first time I ever seen somebody in real life kick a ball soccer style.
Huh.
And this guy, I'm like, my God, he's killing this ball. I said, I don't know if I can beat this guy out or not. I knew I could kick, like most people can.
Yeah.
All right, and so we had the tryouts, and so we're doing this live snaps, live rushes, and whatnot. And I get to go first, and the coach backs us up. You know, do the 30-yarder, do a 35, do a 40, and then he's all right. Let's do the other guy. And I'm like, well, is that all we're gonna do? Just 40? He goes, well, Hollis, what do you want to do? And I said, what's the NFL record? He goes, I ain't got any idea. I said, I'll tell you, it's 62. And he said, so you're telling me you want to do 62? I said, yes, sir, that's what I'm telling you. I knew I had the wind behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And I kicked straight on, and that ball, you can get it up quick, right? And so he gave me 3 tries. I kicked the first 2 I made
No
from
way.
62 yards.
You kidding me?
In the third one, I tunned it. I was probably 7, 8 yards beyond it, but I was about yay far. I was about 2 feet out, and the other guy walked off the field. He said, shook my hand and said, "You got it."
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. He said, "I can't." He said, "I can't do that."
Wow.
And I said, "Really? You know, if it wasn't for this win, I couldn't do it." You know, but
Holy cow.
But see, those guys kicked that line drive, and when I got the wind, I kick it up and I let the wind work.
Yeah.
You know, and so ultimately, I think he was a better kicker than me. Those guys get more foot on the ball. They're more accurate than they're coming off your toe. But you know, later in life, I'm coaching a Pop Warner football team, and they take a break, and I got that little football, and I set it down here, and I kicked it. The head coach come run over, and he says, "Son, you need to be kicking for somebody."
Yeah.
He says, "I don't know who, but you need to be kicking for somebody." I'm like, "Dude, that's that little ball, that'll go a mile, you know." But that's the same thing with Greg White. I didn't kick a regulation football. I was kicking a smaller ball, you know. But kicking is what I've done, you know. That was the only thing I was really good at.
Man, that's an NFL record.
Well,
distance.
Dan, he still kicks the ball in softball.
Kick it around.
Not really, just a joke.
Hey, when you were 11 years old, you had a boating accident. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so our grandparents had a lake place, and during the summer and every weekend, not summer, we would spend, it was White Sands Lake near Keystone Heights, and we were, my dad had done, you know, he had, I don't know, a 16, 18 foot boat and a 90 Evan on it, and it would pull 3 or 4 skiers, and then we had a smaller boat, which was my granddad's. It had a 35. It's kind of like a John boat, okay? The kind of, you sit in the back and you steer it here.
Yeah.
And so they let us take the John boat and go skiing anytime we wanted. And so me and Doug, which is my middle brother, and then Audie, my older brother, decided to go skiing, and Audie going first. Well, and we get out there and we're pulling them around the lake, you know, and it takes us 20 minutes or so usually to go around the lake without falling. But he kept falling, and he was doing it on purpose because he was an excellent skier. And so after he fell about 4 or 5 times, he'd go 100 yards and fall again. I stopped the boat, and I stood up in it, and I said, "You fall one more time, and we're going to leave you out here, and you're going to have to swim in." And fired the boat up, scooped him up, picked him, pulled him up out of the water. He goes 100 yards and he falls. You know, and so when you're pulling the skier, you're basically wide open.
Yeah.
All right. And so when I shut that motor down, I was so mad at him, I shut it off. I guess I didn't turn the throttle. And so the boat stops. I stand up in the boat. I said, "You can swim in, because we ain't coming to get you." And my other brother comes down the boat, and he turns the wheel. You know, he turns the motor. And says, "No, we got to get him. We got to get him." I said, "I ain't getting him." And he goes, "We got to get him." I said, "All right." So he walks back to the front of the boat. I'll pull start. Now, when I shut it down, it was still in gear.
Sure, wide open.
The throttle was stuck wide open. And so when I pull started this thing, the boat took off, and the back of the boat, where the motor attaches, hits me behind the legs, and I'm falling out the back. And I see Doug, he's in the front of the boat, and the boat's going out from underneath him, and it's turning. And so it takes off,
Sure.
and he's 1 step, 2 step out the side in the water. So now I'm in the water, and this boat is racing. It's wide open. It's, you know, and I'm treading water. He's treading water, and I'm like, that thing looks like it's going to go outside of me. You know, just the way it's going, and it's going wide open. It's going fast.
Oh man.
And it's coming right.
Nobody's in it.
Nobody's in it.
Oh.
And it's coming right at us. So I'm still thinking it's going to go outside, you know, and so I didn't dive, and then I realized it's coming right at me,
Oh god.
and it's too late to dive. I should have, you know, I don't know what Doug did, but Doug didn't get hit. So that thing split me right here. I caught the front of the boat. I reached up and caught the front of the boat as it hit me.
Oh.
So it hit me. I took a shot in the chest, and I've got an arm on this side and an arm on that side, and my body's half in the water, and it's running around wide open. And in my little brain at that time, I thought, crab walk, get to the side, and then let go. And as soon as I tried to do that, it was like, it's going to pull me under.
Sure.
And because I couldn't pull myself up. And I'm like, so what went through my mind right then was, it was sapping me of so much strength that I'm like, if I don't let go now, I'm not going to be able to swim.
Right.
And so I let go. And Artie says, you know, he said he saw me let go, and then he said a second later he saw the back of the boat bumping the motor kick up, and so the boat had hit me here, collapsed the lung, broke all my ribs, and then the motor came down, and the propeller got me all down the side right here and all down the butt and whatnot. So cut me up pretty good.
Oh god.
And so I come up, and I'm like, here comes the boat again. You know, and it's right back. And I'm like, I know where it's going this time. So I went underwater. And I don't know if you've ever been near a boat underwater, but it makes a real eerie sound.
Yeah.
But you can tell when it's back. And I let it go by me. I swam outside, and I let it go by me, and it come back around again. I did it again. And now I'm pretty confident I'm outside the range. And so I swim over to Doug, and Artie swims over to us, and we start to swim in. And we probably a quarter mile to go, and Artie's got a life vest. Artie's got a ski belt.
Yeah.
And me and Doug didn't have anything, and so we're swimming, and Artie says, "Doug, check to see if he's bleeding." Doug swims over behind me. He goes, "Oh man, you're bleeding all over the place," you know, which which is not good news, you know, when you're the guy that's hurt.
Yeah.
And so Orty took his ski belt off and gave it to me. And as we were swimming in, our youngest brother, we could see he was down by the water on the shore. And so we're yelling for him, we're waving, you know, and he's just watching. And then finally, man, he's the fastest white dude I ever seen. He streaks up that hill, and then here comes my dad, full tilt running, and we got the big boat parked offshore. He runs, he dives into the water, and he swims, he jumps in the boat, and here he's coming. And he gets out there to us, and they lift me up, and as soon as I hit the floor, my feet hit the floor, all this water and blood. The whole floor is just red, you know, and I'm like, ooh, that don't look good. And he goes to fire the boat up, sits me in a chair, he goes to fire the boat up, and it won't crank. He didn't have the gas tank in there, it was up on shore.
Oh, no.
So he ran the gas out of the carburetors. And so we could see this other boat slowly making its way out. There's two guys, two older guys that saw the accident and started that way from the get-go. And we waited and they got out there to us. Well, they had been working on their boat and they had the steering wheel off. But my dad slapped me in that boat and went back and grabbed the motor and told them, go. And then he made them go wide open. And they didn't like doing it, but he made them go wide open. They got me to shore, and we were still in Keystone, had to go to Jacksonville in a 65 Rambler, but.
So what you learned from that episode, my friend?
Well, don't go skiing with Orty.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, 11-year-old should not have survived that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I've always had that question, why? You know, why? What's he
Your
want
time on
from me?
earth wasn't ready to be over, my friend.
Yeah, so what's he want from me? And
Yeah.
so I'll tie that in maybe a little later here, but
Yeah, you're a very religious man, you know that.
Earlier you were talking about the transition from Winn Dixie to Hollis Appraisals. How did that go?
yeah, well, like I was saying earlier, Odie was making me these offers, and I was on the bottom rung of the executive ladder, so I was set to really go with Winn Dixie.
Mm-hmm.
I was running 91 meat markets, and that's back when we were the beef people. So that was a
big deal.
a precision operation,
Yeah.
and I was really proud to be just a little part of that. And but so he's trying to get me to come to work. He had about 35 employees, and they were just doing their own thing, and they didn't know what customer service meant. And so anyway, made me some offers. I turned them down, and finally one day I said, "Well, look, you throw in a company car, and I'll do it." And so next thing I know, I'm sporting around a 240Z, and I turned my resignation in with Winn Dixie. And when you were a Winn Dixie employee back then, there was not life after Winn Dixie. You didn't think that was even possible, you know. And so I knew when I went in and sat down with my boss and told him that my career's over, you know, it's over. There ain't no coming back. And but I mean, I made a great choice. I mean, Odie's been real good to work with. I was doing 70 some odd hours a week with Winn Dixie, and Odie I'm doing 30, 35, 40, you know, and just whatever we need. And it's been great. And you know, don't tell him I said this, but I mean, when it comes to appraisers, I mean, he's as good as anybody. I took a course, and we're a big name up here, Hollis Appraisal. So anybody that's wanting to get in the appraisal industry wants to come to us to get a job. And I took this class, and I didn't want anybody to know I was Kurt Hollis with Hollis Appraisal, because all these people are going to be looking for jobs. I sat in the back, and it was a 2-week class, and we're like 13 days in out of 14, right? And the instructor, we took a break, and he walks back in, and he walks by me, and he says, "Hollis, are you related to Audie?" I'm like, yes, sir, that's my brother. And he sat down beside me, and he was Odie's professor
Oh, wow.
in college. He was the guy that accused Odie of cheating because Odie was a jock. And there's no way that he could know what he knows. Well, Odie did know what he knew. And, so we kind of discussed all that. And he says, I want to tell you something. He said, I've been doing this for 30 years, teaching students real estate. And he says, he is not the top 3%. He is the top 3 student I have ever had come through my classes.
Wow,
Ever.
high praise. Well,
You know, and he knows his stuff, and I'm glad I'm kind of his right hand man.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get to see all his thoughts and stuff. You know, so it's really cool.
Well, Kurt, you do realize we're the #1 podcast in softball, and your brother's like our #1 fan, so we'll hear what you say.
Hey, speaking of this, so before I transition over to Ed and he starts talking about softball, in our conversations when I first met you, I heard about the wrestling matches, you and Audie, and then, was there ever a Hollis Appraisal wrestling match?
You know, we've probably we've had some cool things. I remember when he went off to college, he was skinny, but when he went off, he started lifting weights.
Mm.
When he come back, I mean, the dude had some muscles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that he still wanted to box, and I thought I could take him. So when I remember when he came home, he pulled up to the garage and got out, and I had them boxing gloves right there, and I'm like, well, you want some of that now? And he goes, yeah. And he put them on. I smacked him 1 or 2 times, and he's like, I'm done.
I will get that story verified.
Well, I can promise you, that's the first time I ever whooped him. but you know what? I mean, he gave me a lot of incentive, you know, to do that. So,
I can't imagine that.
yeah. No, I tell you, it's really great growing up in a big family and with brothers and that you can do things with. And, you know you can get in a fight with them, they won't kill you or you kill them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, we had a great childhood. We had great parents.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
Oh, you Ed.
now start with, and I didn't get to say it in the opening, but I want to thank both you guys for having me. Okay, I appreciate it. The operation y'all got here is impressive. You know, I'll just tell you that. Ed, what you've done, I think you're at 981 videos, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't believe it took me 981 to get in here, but I'm here.
But we only have about 25 podcasts,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
and there ain't a lot of people running around with them shirts and hats you got on. But
Hey, I like it. I like it.
You're part of softball history, and we're going to talk about softball. What do they call that? A pregnant pause, or what is that when you have
That work.
dead air time, which we had for a second there.
Ask Joe. You know,
Ask who?
Joe. In case I freeze up, I do got a cold, so but go ahead.
Okay. You should ask Joe. Who's Joe? Ask Google or ask Joe? Ask.
Liberal Joe.
Oh, Lord. We can't bring. That's one thing we try to stay away from. You know, in the dugout we can talk about anything except politics and what else? That's about it, wasn't it? Politics, and we don't really want to talk about religion. I mean, but we do. You know, we do honor God here, and you know. But we don't want it. Politics is just. There are some guys out there that like this Joe Biden guy. I don't know why, and maybe you need to tell me to move on.
You got to move on, man. Let's talk about softball, dude. Come on.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah. When you get,
I'm sorry, I just had a cold. I just wanted to.
yeah, I got one too, man. But listen, softball in Jacksonville area. When we were young, and you're what? You're 67. So I am
You got a decade?
11 year older than you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, we got to play some on the Hollis team, but you're a young man.
Yeah.
But you know, in the stories you were telling me, you were around all the big guys. You know, back when, what was that, 1972, like, right? What was the Warner's Motors back? It was 73.
Right, they opened, I think, Drew Park in 72. I started actually, first time I ever played there was 73. The Warren Motors team, I think they won the ASA, I want to say in 75. And that's when Warren Motors shut down. So after he won the Worlds, he's like, I got nothing else to prove. They disbanded the team. And
you think I was probably 74?
It might have been, but
because and for some, I don't know, I should have looked this up, I didn't. But either way, let's talk about the guys that you ran across. Now, in your information you sent to me and the research I did, I found this Joseph Catholic Church. I don't remember them back, but I'm assuming
they weren't a prominent team by any means.
They weren't a prominent, just a regular.
No. Yeah, what I think I was trying to tell you there is I was playing some pretty low end softball.
Oh, I got you. So you were just playing low end softball.
Yeah.
And I think what you said to me was you and Audie were playing in a church league, maybe.
We were playing.
And one of the big guys from who was the
I believe his name was Ralph Clippinger. They thought Jacksonville was going to get one of the new pro teams.
Yeah.
And the rumor has it that he was going to be the coach of the team.
And so he was scouting.
Yeah, he was driving by and he saw a game and he was scouting. But when Warren disbanded, a lot of the big names went to play with him with Cannon Welding. And so he drives by the park, and we don't know. And he sets up there. Audie's not going to agree with this, but I think I hit 5 home runs that game, and he hit 4. and really, everybody else was just we just wasn't a good team, and which kind of helped us with the home runs. But after the game, he approached us and asked if we would like to go hit with him Saturday. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to, and Audie's, yeah. And so he said, don't worry about the bats and the balls. He said, I'll bring them. Well, I didn't know what a good softball was, back then. And I didn't know what a good bat was. And he brought the balls and the bats. And I remember Audie pitched to me, I hit first, and Ralph's in left field. And all I remember is seeing the back of his jersey chasing my balls, because that's the best I ever hit in my life. And then Audie came up and did the same thing. And it was the fact that these bats and balls were just so much better than what we were used to hitting. And but he invited us both on. I think I was 18 years old. I might have been 17 still, but I'm 17/18. Audie was 4 years older. And Audie could play. He could play, and he played outfield, and he hit the crud out of the ball, and he fed in with those guys. Well, up until that point, I thought I could hit a softball with anybody. And I started seeing Ray Fleetwood and Ed Roth and Richard Boomau and Duffy Ho and these guys, and I'm like, my God, they not only can they hit it, they can field it, and they can throw it harder than I can catch it. And I was just, man, I was in awe, and so now I try harder.
Well, let's talk all the names that you threw out there. I know of, I'm familiar with and played with most of them. But there's so many others. I mean, you didn't mention Bruce Meade. He was up around that time.
Bruce,
Bruce and Bruce during that period of time.
Yeah. Mike Nye. My God, Mike Nye, Bruce Meade. I mean, I think Bruce. And I think Bruce batted, and I think they backed him up with Fleetwood. Mike Nye was like the leadoff.
Now Mike Jacobs, he was in there
played
somewhere.
Yeah.
Caleb Rabinall, one of the best players we ever played with.
Pound for pound, man. I tell you what. I mean, if you were drafting, you would pick Caleb first.
Yeah, dude.
I call him money.
Money. Money. Yeah, you don't even know that name, do you? Caleb Rabinall. Yeah, he's and Mickey Jones. That's another stud.
Mickey Jones is another one.
I know so many studs from Jacksonville. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You mentioned some guys that you know were really good. They're brothers. There's a brother combination up there that.
Yeah, the Hollis brothers.
I was just gonna say.
The Hollis brothers. Yeah, well, you know,
Boy, we fizzled.
well, listen, man. When I first met Audie, we met in senior ball,
Mhm.
and I won't get into that because I want to get back. I want to get more out of you and some of these guys that we know to put their names in this history book.
Well, and the guy that really took me,
Casey Taylor.
Taylor.
Casey
Yeah,
Taylor, remember
yeah.
him?
Yeah.
Fastest human in the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you what, Mike Nye was pretty damn
Yeah,
good.
Mike Nye. Look, Mike Nye was my idol.
Mike would hit, and when I play a line drive to like the right fielder or right center fielder, I mean, he hit a missile. It was one hop, and that guy would come up with a gun throwing at second. Mike's standing on second, standing up. He's already slid, stood up, and crossed his arms.
He's the most cocky guy I ever seen, and I think that's where I got some of my cockiness trying to, I mean, he was just dude. He'd be doing handstands in the outfield.
Yeah.
He always remind me. I was watching the banana, the baseball team. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
Them guys do flips in the outfield and shit. Well, Mike Nye did that shit when he was playing softball.
Yeah. Now, Mike was a hell of an athlete, and I ran into him. Now, I never played with Mike because he didn't play with the Cannon team. I never played with him, but I played against him in Jacksonville some. And of course, he was a big name. I'm a nobody. All right.
Yeah, I get that. I was there.
Right. And so we're in a tournament in Georgia, and now this is 15, 20 years down the road, right? And so, I mean, he's getting up there in age a little bit, and I'm kind of in my prime, and we're in this tournament, and he's pitching. I didn't know it was him, because he was a little heavier and whatnot, and I hit 4 home runs off of him in that game. And after the game, he comes up to me, he says, "Hey, where do I know you from?" I said, "You know me from Drew Park." I said, "Look, I was out there when you were amazing. You were just incredible. And I mean, I'm looking through the fence watching you play. I mean, you and Fleetwood and these other guys.
That's what Bob O'Brien told me too.
Ronnie Ford.
Great player there.
Unbelievable player.
Unbelievable
player. And, and then when Caleb come along, George Snorer came along and
even Daryl Leak.
Yeah.
Him and I are supposed to be like brothers in the attitude department.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I get that. I see that.
They always, when I was coming into senior ball, they were saying, we got Daryl Leak, man, the old Warren Motors guy. And I knew him. I knew of him.
Yeah.
I never, not up close and personal, but I guess we played against him in the 40s.
Yeah.
And we beat him most of the time.
Yeah.
And we used to ragging on him. That's right. In the 40s, we used to, he'd go at me and I go at him.
Yeah.
Almost looked like we were going to get in a fight, but we didn't get in a fight. We were just being Daryl Leak and Ed Rose.
Yeah.
And he was a great player.
Yeah.
Great player.
Yeah. He was a pretty good coach too.
Yeah, he was a great coach too. I'm going to give him that.
Yeah. And he didn't.
Just like me, actually.
Yeah. And he didn't take any crap off his guys.
No, he was good.
And I mean, he made them work. Most people, when they practice softball, they go hit, and
just hit. That's all.
Yeah. Well, that you ain't playing for them if that's what you're doing. You're working the defense. You're running. You throwing. You're doing it all, and you're doing it smart. And he was a great coach. There's no question.
So now, let me ask you your perspective on this, because I'm with you when I say that, I knew Mike Nye. He was like my idol, and I became friends with Mike. I mean, half of these guys we're talking about, I became friends and teammates with him.
Right.
And played with him,
Right.
Like, I've hit the big time.
Right. Which that's the great thing about senior ball.
That's it.
That is a great thing, because, that's where I met Mike Masinko,
Well, that's the same way with me, because Mike Masinko, I seen him, I was in tournaments with him, and he's playing in the major, and I'm playing in the A.
Right.
Right. And now we're buds, we've hit together, he's come to my house.
Mike is a great ambassador for softball. Probably the greatest ambassador for softball. I mean, I love Mike Masinko.
He knows everything too. But let me get to my point. I wasn't just rambling to say, hey, I was rambling that I can relate to what you're telling me about, you know, looking like you were the little guy looking up to the big guy. And now you're with those people and you are one of the big guys in senior softball. I mean, you're now, and that's going to lead to my next question that I want to get the three of us,
Okay.
you know, dealing with as far as athletes go. I just want to know how that makes you feel to come from just a guy that was a good home run hitter, and now you're you're in the Florida Half Century Hall of Fame, dude. So you're a well-known figure in senior ball. So how's that work?
You know, and I did get inducted. I don't know that I earned it, but I do know that the guys I played with, the Mark Martins, the Cecil Whiteheads, the Doug Neulers, the Randy Parkers,
Unknown player.
the unknown players that are right there.
Mark
They're-
Martin.
Yes, I mean there's good. I mean, Mark was well known, but Cecil's well known, but Willard Chop, Ed
How's he doing? Is he all right?
Wadsworth.
Is Willard all right?
Willard's doing better. I'm planning on seeing him in the next week or so. So
Tell him I said hi.
I'll do it because Jeff Eckonon wants to go with me, so we're going to set it up.
Big Jack Effinon. There's another great player.
Yeah. And so we're going to ride down and see him because he's had a really, really tough time of it, but and he's got a long road back.
So let's get back on to how you feel about being one of those players now. And you said you're not deserving of it, but I disagree because in the half century, it's not all about how you hit them and where you hit them, how many wins, losses you have, and what you contribute to the senior softball in the Florida half century. You contributed a lot, and in the softball in general. We got to talk about this too, and I'm not sure. I want to talk about the spring training after we talk about the big question I mentioned to you last night. But let's go and finish with this because I get too wrapped up in all.
Yeah. Look, I'm honored, and honestly, I'll be honest with you. I rode your coattails and Audie's coattails, the Hollis team. You two guys came together and had the sense enough to know that we got to use the whole district to be able to compete. And y'all, you took your guys and he took his guys, and then we recruited. We recruited you new guys down here. Randy LeMay, new guys in Orlando. That's how Mark Martin. He said, Mark's playing for me, but he's too good for my team. He needs to be playing with y'all. And he generously allowed Mark to switch teams. And
Randy's a nice guy too.
Randy's a nice guy, and we went in that Hall of Fame together.
Yeah.
So
he beat you to the podcast though, because he was on our podcast.
yeah, well, that's because he struck out 3 people.
That's right. That's a shout out to Randy LeMay, the only guy to strike out 3 of the studs on a Hollis team in a row with 9 straight pitches. But no, it's only 6 because with only 2 strikes, you can get 3 pitches back.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I do remember.
But I knew none of mine I got were illegal. And Randy's over there hiding behind his hat and his gloves. And
shit, I don't think any of them was legal. But
yeah, and I said, Randy, you strike me out again because I wouldn't have swung at none of them.
So finish up, and then we're going to get to my question.
Well, no, I was honored. I don't know, but I mean, it's you guys that built this team, and these guys gave their time and their energy, and I think they let us play in 9 of those state. One of them they
wouldn't let us play, so we couldn't win it.
Yeah, and the one that we did lose, we lost by 1 run early in the tournament, and that what happened to be a deciding game. Because from that point on, we were just obliterating everybody, and we just couldn't get back to the.
It was interesting how we did that.
But that was 8 out of 9.
It was 9 out of 10. No,
I think it was 8 out of 9.
Okay, well, it's I don't think.
But we did get one in the 60s this past year.
Yeah, and that was a long time coming.
It was a long time coming.
We were hit that dead spot when it got into the 60s for some reason.
Yeah, well,
I won a couple in the 55s, and then they abandoned the 55s.
There was a little rule change where the 2 big districts down south.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, so that makes it tough.
They took up. Now they got the dominant force.
Oh, well, they're going to have it as long as they can swap over.
Yeah,
so that's just going to be that way.
But it is what it is. Now here's where I want to go with this. We talked about all these great players, and you know, Mike Masenko and Bruce Meade considered the number 1 and number 2 players of all times, and that's fair. But take Mike for example. Mike hit, what's it,
844.
844. Now he was hitting just about every day, and they were traveling around. It was a different era.
It was.
I don't want to get focused on Mike and Bruce because they're just really
Top of the class.
there are special people, like just take Aaron Judd, guy that, you know, he's a special person. Let's talk in general about athletes. I don't think, and this is my position, I don't think it's fair to judge athletes from different decades, and I'm going to say 10, 20 years, maybe 20 years it might be. I don't know what the breakdown is, but like the athletes coming up behind us are bigger, stronger, better trained, better equipment, better fed. There's just a lot of reasons that you can't compare the two.
I agree 100% with that.
And Daniel, what's your input on that?
I didn't play in your era, but I recognize that what you're saying is true. I mean, there's a lot more, even in pro sports. Babe Ruth, I mean, he was smoking on the bench and drinking, and
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Aaron Judge, you just spoke to him. I mean, the players now, it's all they do is train.
Right, all in.
And you're seeing the higher level softball players, at least I am, they're committing not just batting practice time, they're training their body too.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be back in my day, in your day, I'm sure we're not that far apart, is that the goal was to be a 3-sport athlete, 4-sport athlete.
Yeah.
Oh, I played, you know,
Well, that's right. You played by the seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's not the deal now.
No.
You're going to play, like in baseball,
Yeah.
you're going to play that travel ball all year round.
Yeah.
Plus, when you ain't playing travel ball, you're going to go to some clinic and some specialized deal.
Yeah.
And you're going to be on weight training. You're going to put on pounds. I helped my young Dominican son put on, I think it was 25 pounds in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
With
It's crazy, ain't it?
I don't know, I think it was an 8,000 calories a day diet
Wow.
that I put together for him.
Yeah.
And that's unheard of
Right.
back
Right.
there in our day. So,
And the only, so if you're looking at the sport of baseball, there's so many more people playing that now around the world that you know. But now let's go back to softball and use that sport specifically.
yep.
There's an issue there because softball back in the 70s and the 80s was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had way more players out there than what you do now. And so that's like a 6A school versus a 2A school that you could draw from. But I agree with Ed 100% that the training that they get nowadays and the medicines and the treatments and the knowledge of the coaches is off the charts. And our old guys, I don't think, can compete with the new guys.
Yeah, well, for example, you got a guy named Bob, well, you know Bob O'Brien.
Bobby.
He's considered one of the better hitters in senior softball in his era. Now, you know, you can't say, well, okay, Bob is, you know, like 3rd or 4th in the whole. You can't really do that.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because and it's all right to have the legends from the past, the softball the way it was, and then they need to have something for the, and I think they do. They have the conferences now, and so they rank these guys in the conference, and there's another way of, and then they had this, what was it, the hitting home runs out of the Bombers.
Oh yeah, the long haul bombers.
Long haul bombers.
Yeah.
That would, you know.
That's incredible. I mean, the pros would come up onto the rails of the dugout to watch.
Yeah, to
and
watch.
show that.
And so here's the thing that really, I guess, clarifies, or maybe that's not the right word. It really points out the difference between the old days and now. In the old days, you had Bruce Mead, you had Mike Masenko, you had a bunch of other country boys from Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the guys, you could probably all name them on your feet and your toes and your hands.
Yeah.
You know, the home run kids.
Given enough time, we could.
Yeah. And that would put them out. I mean, look, I could go Curtis Williams, Ricky Huggins.
Right. Yeah.
And nowadays, they're all different people, but the guys that can hit them out of stadiums, they're prevalent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like an oddity.
Right.
You'd have to have a computer
Right.
to keep track of all the guys who can hit it
Right.
out. Dan, you can hit it out of the damn. You can hit it out of the damn stadium. Jack Aronson hit him out of the stadium.
Yeah.
You know, so the so-called regular guys can hit him out now.
Well, you know, when I was asked, this was when I turned 50. I was asked to pitch in a home run derby. They were having an A-League type tournament in Jacksonville, all the big teams, right? And they were holding a home run derby at the Suns AA Stadium downtown Jacksonville. And I got hired to pitch for 2 innings, and they needed 3 pitchers, so it was a 6-hour home run derby. And 179 contestants.
Wow.
And so I pitched the first 2 hours, and then you talking about stress. That's stress, because they're telling you what they want.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I pitched that, and when I got done, I'm soaking wet and sweat, and the guy that's running it, he said, "Oh, by the way,"
You want to hit?
he said, he did. He said, "Grab a bat and get in line." And I said, you know, I told him, I said, "I'd like to see if I can just hit one out." And because I mean it was like 335 or something down the line, and he went to 380 and 410, and so my son was hitting in the derby, and I had this super hot freak. All right, and I gave him the freak, and he broke it during the home run derby, and I had another freak in the wrapper, and so I took that one out of the wrapper, and I went up to hit. And I hit 8 out of 10 out, and I won the home run derby.
No way.
I won $5,000 worth of.
Holy mackerel!
That's
You
a
won
story,
$5
man.
grand. When was that?
Well, I'll tell you what, it wasn't $5,000. It wasn't that much, but
When was it? Don't matter about when.
I was right at 50 years old, because I was just leaving Learn Waterhouse to start to play senior ball, so I was probably 49. But the 2 guys I beat, one of them had me by 3 or 4 inches in height and 25 years younger,
Wow.
and the other one's just 25 years younger. But
So we're all agreeing that it's a lot more home run hitters than there used to be for sure.
oh yeah.
And the equipment is so much
Right.
different.
And
you know.
yeah, I was just tickled pink, you know, and it was funny because they were playing all this loud music. There's a lot of people there, and they were playing this loud music, and I hit 8 out of 10. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just listening to music and hitting.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it come to the finals, I had to go first, and they cut the music off, and now it's, you know, I didn't hit as well.
But
But I
listen,
still
Kurt,
hit more than they did.
yeah, we could talk about this all the time. We get into all the home run thing. We over the limit here, and we're getting up to it. I got the hook about 5 minutes ago, but we got to get into the spring training, because I think you may be the guy that invented what they call spring training. I don't know.
How
Let's
did that
talk
come? How
about
did they
that.
come about? Like, what was the idea for that?
So how it started was, internet forums. They had just really kind of taken off, these internet forums. So when you go home you go home at night, you can pull up on the internet and you see these guys talking softball, and they're from all over the country. And Daryl Cribbs, I think he's out of Lake City. He actually probably came up with the idea, and so I knew Daryl, and we're like, because we're hitting every night or every other night, and these guys are snowed in. They're like, we've got 3, and they send us pictures of snow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, you know, so after a few months of that, we're like, why don't we just pick a date out?
What year was this?
Had to be, God, I don't know, that might late 90s, 2000.
Okay.
It was a good 30 years ago, wasn't it?
It was,
I haven't worked in Harris for 20 some years, and I think it's 30 years ago. What date would that be?
Yeah, I mean, it very well could have been. It's, you know, and so we got with Daryl and we set a date, and the deal was whatever expenses, we'll split them, you know, and y'all stay down here for 2 or 3 days, and we'll do a banquet and have a little dinner, and then, you know, we got that's when we started getting with the bat companies.
25 years ago, because I was with Hollis at the time, and I didn't start playing at Hollis until about 3 years, and then about 5 years. I didn't start playing with Hollis until about 56.
Yeah.
So it's probably like 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's probably about right. And so, and that went. I think our first one we might have had like 35 guys, you know. And here's the thing, it was all done on the internet. So none of my buddies that I hang with all week long even knew this was going on, and I didn't mention any of it to them. I didn't want to fill up local guys.
Yeah.
I wanted these guys to come in and have their time, and so I mean that's it grew, and it grew to where we were getting close to 200 every year, and they were coming from Taiwan or you know, Washington State, Brett Kruger.
Here's the other thing I need to bring up. I just thought about it. I mean, I could keep going on this, but I think it's important. The bat that you brought in, the Reebok. That you were very creative, and you pushed. You sold like what, 6,000 bats?
I sold thousands of them, but
thousands of them.
And most people don't know this, but that wasn't the first bat I was involved in. I played with Specialty Tank Worth.
I remember that.
All right, John Riccio, and so we're hitting the Worth bats, and everybody we're playing in senior ball gets to hit the Mikan, and Mikan was the king of the bats, and at the time, and some of my Mikan buddies will tell me they still are, and that's fine, but they were definitely dominant then, and I went to Riccio because he knew the president of Worth. And I said, John, can't they just take some of your Worth bats, I mean your Mikans, and paint them like Worths and give them to us? He goes, I don't know, let me call them. So that bat, that Launch 510, I think it's called, the Worth 5, is that right? 510, I don't remember. That bat started on my desk. And so I called Riccio. Riccio called the president of Worth, and he said, you'll have that bat next week.
No way.
Next week, the lawyers got involved and said, we won't have that bat next week.
Yeah.
And so, but what they did develop is that Worth Launch 510. And that was the bat they gave to us. And
Why wouldn't they just paint it? I mean, they've owned them.
Well, it was the legalese from the lawyers that stopped that. So they were just going to take the Mikan, because Worth had just bought Mikan, and they were going to just take that Mikan and put the Worth paint job on it and give it to us and let us play. And back then there was a lot of stuff done like that, but the lawyers with Worth said, no, we can't do that. No. And so we will have to develop your own bat. And they made that Worth Launch 510, and that was one of the hottest bats that's ever hit the market, but it was broke.
Yeah.
But that was the first one.
The Melee has to be, that's still one of the best bats ever.
The Melee, I'll tell you what, the Melee, and the way that happened was John Loraz, he was the engineer for Reebok, flew in during spring training. He wanted to have a meeting with me, and he flew into spring training out of Boston to meet with me. And he says, I want to develop a senior bat. That will be the best senior bat. And he says, and I understand you are the guy that I need to have help me do this.
That's crazy.
You know, and I said, well, John, I appreciate you coming. I said, but it's got to do 3 things, and if it don't do these 3 things, then I don't want to be involved. And, you know, I said it's got to be a competitive bat as anything on the market. It's got to have durability, and it's got to be reasonably priced. Mm-hmm. And if we can do that, then we can knock Mikan down a notch, you know. And because you had Mike Masinko's bat out there, which was a good bat, a very good bat. And I even swung it a lot back before then, you know, the combat. And I love that bat, and I still got one at the house. But it was miking and it was combat, and that was about your choices. And so I talked to Masinko, and I talked to Kevin Schulstrom, and I'm trying to get an idea of how many senior bats are sold a year. And and they said, Kurt, it can't be any more than about 5,000. And he goes, Mike made the comment. He said he didn't think that there would be a market for another bat. And I'm like, I don't know if there is or not. But so I worked real close with John Flores, and he sent me some bats that were just unbelievable as far as performance. And I kept telling him to tone this down. I said, there's no way you can make this pass. He said, you don't worry about that end of the deal. You said, you just get me where I need to be here. And so that turned out to be that Worth Melee, the yellow one and the red one.
You said Worth, it wasn't Worth.
I mean, I'm sorry, not Worth,
Adidas.
Reebok.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm glad you corrected me. Reebok Melee, and you had two guys using the red ones out there on your team today. So I pointed out to Debbie, I'm more proud of that bat than just about any accomplishment that I've done in senior softball.
Well, we're proud of you, my friend, and we're glad you're on this channel. But Daniel, let's take it home because we're about past our airtime.
We are. We could. I'm not done listening to Kurt. We're gonna have to. Well, the camera goes off. I want to keep this going. Hey, what would be the at the end? We always wrap it up with the 3 things that you would encourage a younger player to be successful in softball. 3 things. The advice that you would give to any player who wants to be at the highest level?
Well, I think you got to truly want it, and if you don't have that desire, Ed, I can't tell you how many times I'm watching the big boys play, and I'm getting calluses on my hands watching them guys play, and I'm so this is back in my St. Joe's days. Okay, anytime those guys were playing, I was there. I was watching, and I'm like, one day, I'm like, I know I ain't good enough now, but one day I want to be in that league with these guys. I want to play with these guys. And if the biggest thing, if you don't have the desire, the drive, the will to do that, you got some guys out there. Caleb Redmond, just more. That boy didn't never have to take batting practice or field practice. He just stepped out and did it. Most people aren't built that way.
Yeah.
But see, Caleb, it shows. Let's put it this way. Let's not just mention names, but that the lack of training and effort limits your career.
Yeah.
If you follow what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure Caleb got all that training on the front end. All right. And,
he was the greatest.
Yeah. So when I was a little leaguer, I showed up at the park because it was the day for us to show up and meet the team, and we were going to get our uniforms. And the coach is there, and he's got 2 baseballs, he's got 1 bat, and he's got our uniforms, Miller Electric Sparks. They were beautiful. They were wool. We played in the summer, but that's what they were. And he turned to me, I guess because I'm the tallest on the team, and he says, "Here, you take over, you run the team," and he left. And I ran the team best I could. I didn't know anything about running the team. But there was no training. So when I played, there wasn't anybody telling me how to swing a bat. There wasn't telling. That's why I feel so poorly, man. Ain't nobody ever showed me how, or I think they had told me how, but I didn't do a very good job. But
so number 1 is the desire.
Number 1 is definitely the desire. You got to have that desire, and then that if you got that desire, the commitment will come. The training, the weightlifting, the
desire, commitment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and all that'll come. And I think the problem I see with the young guys is there's so many distractions nowadays that it's hard. It's hard to be committed.
Well, maybe follow that up. I know this is extended a little bit, but you're an old guy now.
Thank you.
What do you recommend to this guy over here who's a young stud at 50, what, 2?
5.
Oh, 55. You're getting older, man.
I know. Dad's had a birthday, man.
Well,
So you're 65.
67. I'll be
66.
68 here in a little while.
68. So you're 10 years different than me. So tell him what he needs to get ready for coming into your world.
Well, I mean, I think it's some of the same things we just talked about. You got to want it. And if you want it. Now, I don't feel from about 52 on to when I got this Achilles issue, I don't feel that I was up to where I needed to be. I had a shoulder injury, and I tried too hard when I come back. The desire was there.
Maybe you come back too early, and that's one thing guys got to remember.
Well,
don't come back too early.
That's true, and I honestly, I'm from 52 to the day before this surgery. I'm not happy with what I've done. I found out that I'm eligible to play 70 and over this winter national. And
Wow.
So I am making a commitment, like we just talked about, to get back in the gym. I want to get my legs back underneath me. And look, when I go hit BP, Ed, and you know, you go with me. I mean, I'll chip some balls to right. I'll hit some, you know. This is during these injuries, and I just didn't want to aggravate anything. But the day before my surgery, I went and hit, and I'm like, what difference does it make if I aggravate myself? I said, because I never go from swing one. I never go as hard as I can. And I'm like, I got to change my attitude. And I went out and I hit with some guys at Drew Park, and I decided I'm gonna do 2 things. Cause you know me, I pull off the ball, and I'm like, shoulder stays in, go at this like you're wall dyke. Just go at it with everything that you got. Shoulder stay in, go at it. And I hadn't hit that good. I mean, the very first ball they pitched to me, I cleared the parking lot, and I'm like, and then I hit some. I used to fold third baseman. They would just fold and get out of the way. Or same thing with shortstop, and I don't do that. From about 52 on, I didn't do that anymore. You know, and I hit some balls in that practice because I didn't care if I'd hurt my foot come having surgery next day. And I went at it with that attitude that I just expressed. I have not hit the ball that good since I've been 50 years old, and I'm stoked about
to come back. You ready?
I'm stoked about coming back and folding some 70-year-olds. You know.
Well, that's the beauty of senior ball. But one day you run out of teams to go to because there's no teams after 85.
Yeah, but you know, and that's the thing, Ed. I got those grandkids, and I'm giving myself 2 years. I know coming back from Achilles, you got a year. All right, so I'm giving myself 2 years. I'm talking it over with Audie, and it's like, you know, he's like, you know, 2 years is probably good. Let's do that, and then maybe go on to other things.
Well, we got 10 seconds. Let's get out of here, Dano.
Kurt, thanks for joining us in the dugout. You're a rock star, baby. Thank you.
Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it. All right, guys, I appreciate that.
Oh man, we pulled that off. I didn't think we would. Let me see.
So I was gonna ask this, but I didn't want to.
Shit.
So did you do that before Gene Smith's, or is it together, or what? Your spring training. You were before Gene?
Well, yeah. Let me tell you about Gene. Gene.
You stole your idea?
Gene came to me and wanted to know if he could, you know, our second or third year, he wanted to know if they could be involved. And I said, yeah, certainly. Y'all come on, be involved.
Yeah.
And so after about a week of, you know, small talk, he's like, well, you know, we'd really like to run it. And I said,